Well, hello model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Ral, and here I want to do a how-to and show you how I do the wood detail painting on interiors. And it's pretty simple, but I've been getting asked that quite a bit, so since I'm going to be doing it to my 72 Charger here, which has quite a bit of it, so I figured I would show you how I do it. It's really not that difficult, I don't think, and I'll show you what I do. But here's the first couple of things that I use. First thing I do is I will airbrush the entire interior or whatever I need in semi-gloss black. Now I've been using testers. This is number 1139 and it's semi-gloss black. And I know this stuff's kind of getting harder to get, but the bottle paint should be available. But I'll airbrush this on, so that's already been done. Actually, it's been done for a few months now, so dry time really doesn't matter. But I'll use this. And then I also like to use this one right here, which is also testers. It's their flat brown, which is 1166, I believe is the number right there. Flat brown, and it's in there, and it tends to separate, but I'll shake it up and get it ready. But sometimes I'll mix it up on my brush and not really shake it up real good. It's kind of a pain to get this going here, but that's the way that one is right now. But I will show you that, because sometimes having it perfectly mixed isn't too much of a deal, because it kind of adds to the detail of it. And when I brush it, it tends to mix with this to kind of create the effect that I want. Now, to give it some more depth, I've done this a few times, but I don't do it very often. Most of the ones that you've seen. But I'll take Tamiya, I think that's how it's said. This is the clear yellow. And then you can brush this on after it's completely dry, and it will add a little bit of depth to it. Especially if you do it on the outside, when you do wood side paneling on a woody or something like that. I've been wanting to do that, but I haven't done a woody in a very long time. But I've got a couple in my stash. And I got the rest of the interior here. I got the dash, the steering wheel, which there's some wood pieces on those. And then the rest of the interior here, which doesn't really need it. Some brush cleaner. A wide brush. This is your typical tester's cheap brush. And I got a little bit of a finer tip brush, which is what I usually use. This is a number 2 Atlas red sable. And I've had this a while. It's a little ratty as far as the bristles go, if it'll focus on that. But I don't really concern myself too much with that, because that will kind of add to the effect as well. So we'll set that down. But the areas that I need to go of, and I'll just use the back side of my paintbrush here. This needs to be wood-sided, and you can see there's a grain to it already. That's right from MPC. This is an MPC interior tub. And then this whole section right here needs wood grain, which is a large section on the door. Most of the cars I do don't have this big of a section. Of course, the other side. And then this is the dash, and I will do right here where the gauges are. And then I'll also do right here. So both of those will get done. And then the last piece I'll do is right in the very center here where it says Dodge, if I turn the steering wheel right side up here. So there's the steering wheel. But I will just do the center section. And sometimes the smaller sections are a little harder to do. So we'll get started here, and I'll get this mixed up. And okay, so here we go. Getting it kind of mixed up. Didn't mix real well, so you can kind of see it's in there, and it's a little swirly. It's kind of thick. For this, I usually leave it, but when I airbrush it, I'll thin it, but I'll leave it on there kind of thick. And we'll get some on the paintbrush here. Alright, take a little bit off the paintbrush, and let's just start, we'll start in here first, and we'll just go, and you can see the bristles kind of break it up, and I'll just do like 1 or 2 quick strokes, and you can see as it kind of soaks in, it's breaking up the black a little bit too. Alright, and when I get a little bit too much in some areas, and I don't worry about it too much, because I'll go back through and touch it up with black. So you can kind of see I did that. Alright, and let's get a little bit more on here, and we'll start doing this section here. And funny part is you can't see a whole lot of this sometimes. And I'll do this in stages or a couple of coats here. So and I let it go kind of sloppily. And I do that kind of on purpose, as you can see. Hoping the camera's focusing on this, as while I'm watching what I'm doing, not watching what the camera's seeing. Okay. Do another little dab here. Try not to get too much of the okay. Alright. Now, got some pretty decent coverage. Now I'm just going to go over some of these areas again and spread it around, blend it in, let it mix up, and go from there. So you can kind of see it's a little blotchy, but it's pretty decent. Got a whole section right there that I missed, so let's get a little bit more on the paintbrush. Get right. Alright, there we go. Some there, get some right there. Whole section right there, I didn't get some very good coverage, so here we go. And you can see when it starts to dry, I'll brush and get some of the strokes in there. And there we go. Alright, let's get a little bit more on the front of the gauges here, because I don't have a whole lot on here. And I'll tend to go back over it a couple of times here and there. But I don't want complete coverage, so you can kind of see what's going on there. And the paint's drying kind of quick on my brush, so a little bit of dry brushing going on. But you can see it's pretty decent. I'm pretty happy with that, but I'll do a little bit more to that, but we'll move on to the next piece here. We'll get the steering wheel here real quick. Alright. See if it'll focus on it. Okay. Now let's take some of that off. Alright, here we go. So there we go. Break some of this up here because it softens the semi-gloss below it. So there we go. And then I'll touch it up with some more. I'll dry brush some black over it too to kind of make the grain a little more apparent. And then here we go. Let's do in here. This one being an automatic, I'm trying not to get the shifter area, but right now that's not that critical. I will touch that up as needed. and sometimes even a finer paintbrush work better in here. So there we go. All right. So you can see that there. Pretty decent, not the best coverage. You can kind of see where I got some of the black on there. But got the wood there, and then do this. Sometimes with a bigger section I'll use a bigger brush. We'll see how this goes, but I'll tend to break it up with some of the paint here. So let me get some more on my brush here. Now I got quite a bit here, but let's get some more paint. See how it's kind of not really mixed up very well. Alright. So it's looking pretty decent. And then that piece is going to be chrome on the top. I do use my Multi-Low pen for that, and then some of the chrome here and the handle, but I'll do that later. Right now I'm just focusing on the wood. And then you can let it dry and then scrape over it again, and you can put more lines in it. Do it multiple times if you want it a bit darker or more wood tan to it. And some of this areas like here, I just keep going over it as I like it. So here we go. Now let's do this side. Sorry, it's kind of awkward for me because it's not quite in my face. I got the camera in between me and what I'm doing. Okay. Spreading it around. So I said it's kind of simple, and I'm just spreading it around, not doing the greatest coverage job, but I think that's part of the simplicity of doing this. Just brushing it, getting it where I want and how I want it, and not having too much paint on my brush. Oh, it tends to dry and you got to keep wetting it, but that's okay. I want it that way. And I keep turning my brush, if you notice, rotating it, getting the more wet spots and spreading it around, but still not going for full coverage. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that I'm using enamel paints and kind of dry brushing, but not really. So there's that step. And sometimes, you know, this is actually pretty decent in my opinion. I could leave it just like this, but get a little bit more up a little higher because I didn't quite get all the way up here. But I'm really happy with the way it looks, and then I can just leave it like this because of the way it blended. And then if I really want to make it a little more obvious, I can dry brush some black on it, which I think I'll do in some of this areas. But those side panels, they came out pretty nice. But here's where you can go back over, touch up some of the areas. But what's molded into the door panel actually quite helps, because on this one there's quite a bit of deep wood here in the actual molding, and I think it really helping this particular one. Okay. Alright, we'll get a little bit more on the back section, the quarter panel section. You can see how it's thicker and thinner and getting more and more coverage, so I'll brush it around and spread it around. But any of the areas where I get paint where I don't want it, I'll end up touching it up. Alright. I'm really liking the way that came out. And what you guys think of it, but it says fairly simple. Got all that. I was going to put wood on the shift knob here, but when I was looking at my reference material, I realized this is really the wrong shifter, even though it's what came in the kit. It should be a T-handle for an automatic, but I will fix that later because I'm not working on that part right now. And then we'll just clean my paintbrush. I need another bottle of this brush cleaner, but I push it up against the side and spin it. I don't go all the way down, in case you're wondering. Don't know what anybody else does. This is just how I've cleaned my brushes for many years, where I'm not actually smashing them down on the bottom. But you know, some people I've seen swish them around, but that's just, you know, to each their own. I'm just showing you what I do. So we'll put this cap back on because it stinks a little bit. And we've done enough of that. Let's mix up the semi-gloss black. Alright, that's mixed up pretty good. There we go. I just use what's pretty much in the cap on this, and what I'll do is, again, get some on my brush, and then I'll dry brush it a little bit. So we'll take my paper towel in here, I'll wipe the excess off to where it's just doing that, and then here's where I'll gently just do a couple of strokes here and there. And I'm basically just dirtying up the brown. Alright. Get a little bit more. Alright, and you can see the strokes there. And I tend to go side to side. So there we go. So you can kind of see what happened there. I'm not done yet. And then this section here, which I'll just do a little bit like this, that, and just, it's pretty dry now, just drag it across. There we go. And then I'll do the same to the steering wheel, because the steering wheel is a little too tan, doesn't have a whole lot of grain to it, which there really isn't any grain molded in this one. Okay. Alright. And let's do some more to move this a little bit more in view so you can see what I'm doing here. I really don't need the seats here, so, or the shifter, but okay. So now, oops, a little too much. See what I'm talking about? I got a little too much right there, but the rest of it's looking pretty good. The door panels, I think I'm going to leave that alone. But I can do the same to this. Alright, and we'll give that a moment to dry here. Clean my brush again. Get it all nice and clean. Alright, and then back to the tan. Mix this up a little bit more. This is getting kind of thick actually, but it works perfectly for what I'm doing right here. Alright, so let's do some more. Get some more on the brush here. And then same deal. Now I'm trying to break it up, so let's dry some of that off. And then we'll do it again over some of this. And some of the areas where I got too much of it. Breaking it up. Alright. Got a whole section down here I missed. There we go. And then so there we are. I'm going to get a little bit more right here. Alright. And then the last piece, this part of the console where I got too much. And we'll go back over it again. Let it blend in. And there's the console. And then I didn't really do anything more to the wood sides on the door panels there, liking the way those came out by themselves, and the way they blended with the semi-gloss black behind it. So there we go. Now, last thing I'll do is any of the areas where where my brush hit, you can kind of see all right in here and there where all my brush hit. I'll clean those up, but like I said, that's going to be Multi-Low pen up here, so I'll clean that up with the Multi-Low, and then I'll just touch up any brush paint. So I'm going to give this a little bit of time to dry, and then I'll probably go back to doing all of that. So we'll give that a little bit of time here and close these up. And of course, clean the paintbrush. So that needs to be clean. Okay. And here we go. Now I get some black on here. And anywhere I need to touch up, like on the steering wheel here. Small spot right there. Oops. Hold on to that. A little closer. That's good, that's good. A little bit on the side here. That side looks good. Alright, I think that looks good. Let that dry. I think I'm going to do a little bit more of the brown on that. Let's see, any areas on here I need to touch up? Yeah, I got it on the gauge here. So let's touch that up. This gauge also. That looks good, that looks good. A little bit more on, it's actually the AC controls on that side and the radio right here. Those are all good. Alright, some black there. I'm just cleaning up my sloppy work, which is funny, showing you this stuff, and most of the time this is just stuff I'm cleaning up. You don't see it, you really don't notice it in the finished product. Alright. Some of these areas, when the car is assembled, you don't even notice, especially when it's a hard top. You just can't see in there. There we go. And then some of this section right here. Some of this is guide control. If you notice, I'm having one hand hold the other hand. That keeps me from doing this, or I have one finger holding another finger. Helps me guide. If you notice, my hands are a bit shaky. Just kind of a little tip I just thought about that I do, but I don't really think about. But I figured I would just kind of point that out because it just dawned on me right now that I do that, and I don't think I've ever mentioned that I do it or why I do it. But it helps me guide my paintbrush when I have the hands holding each other. See here, I got some right here, so let's, okay, there's that. Right there. Alright. That side's looking good. What about this side? I got some on the armrest right here, so let's go over that. The top I'm not worried about. Oh, definitely got some right here, so let's clean that up. Here we go. Alright. Now, whoa, there we go, dropping a paintbrush. Alright, so let's get in here. It's one of the things I like about semi-gloss black is it's easy to touch up and blend in. Okay, and then right here where the shifter goes, even though it's going to be glued, let's get the brown paint off of there, get the black back in there. Alright, so there we go. You can see the shifter there, and all the paint, and the wood and the grain. There's the side, of course the other side, and then the dash and the steering wheel. Really happy with the way this is all coming out. I think it looks pretty good. Hope you guys think the same. Let's get a little bit more right here. And then the steering wheel. Let's a lot of going back and forth if you noticed, but just doing it till I'm happy with it. Let's see which way's up. Here we go. Let's get some more across that. There. Alright. Really happy with the way that's come out. And then I'll move on to the rest of it. Just dry brushing the silver on the gauges and the needles. Like to get a little bit of red on the needles. But that is pretty much how I do the wood on it. And like I said, I've seen this brushed on top of it. After you get it like that, it can give it a little bit more depth, but being that that's acrylic, you really got to let this fully dry before you do any of that. But generally I don't do that. I pretty much leave it just like this, which if you guys noticed my interiors. So before I finish the video though, I will do the rest of the detail painting, finish the interior, and I'll show you what the interior looks like here. For you it'll be a minute. Okay? So stay tuned. Okay, here is the finished detailing on this. So I'll show this to you and what I did. You can see I used the Motolo pen there and put the chrome on. Although my paint's kind of getting old, so I tend to use my real fine thing and I dip it in there and spread it on with this brush. But that's how I put that on there, and then did the door handle and the window crank, and then all around the console there, so you can see that console. And I changed out the shifter for one with more of a T handle on it. So detailed that out, and of course did the same thing on the other side. And real happy with the way that is. So all I got to do now is glue in the seats and glue in the dash, and she's done. Speaking of the dash, here's how the dash came out. Give it a second to focus. So there's how the wood came out, and really happy with that. and then some more dry brushing with the silver and the Multilo paint. And got that all detailed and really happy with that. Glued the steering column in there, and then it's got the key on the side. But that's from the AMT 71 charger, but the dash is the MPC 72 charger. But just kept bashing that a little bit. And then here's how the steering wheel came out. So you can see the wood on that, and then got some silver paint on the Dodge letters there. Really not the best as far as detailing goes, but I'm really happy with it. And it'll go into the interior and it'll look pretty good. And I got the seats here, but it's pretty much ready to glue together. I figured you guys have been asking how I do the wood, so I figured I would show you that. Now I didn't use this at all. I've only done it a few times, but I'm real happy with the way it looks like this. It has a pretty nice wood grain look to it, so I'm pretty happy with it. But just going over it multiple times, you know, and letting it mix with the black behind it a little bit. So you saw how I do that. And there's the console again. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was helpful. So thank you for tuning in and subscribing, and all of your comments and your suggestions on please show us how you do that. So I hope it helped. I find it kind of simple, and it works really well for me, so I'm really happy with it. So thank you for all of your suggestions and everything, and I hope this helped. So you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Saturday. And don't be afraid to check out any of my other how-tos that are on my channel. I've got a number of them I put in there, and subscribing and everything. So thank you. You have a good weekend.